I shut down my idol's print shop and ruined his career.
Hello everyone, Stories Boss here.
Let's begin. A little backstory. I'm an online artist, and this took place when I was in my early 20s. There was a popular artist who calls himself a professional and works in the industries. I used to look up to him. Let's call him Zach. Lately, I noticed how Zach's art looked eerily too familiar to a piece of media I've seen before. So I looked up the images and found it to match to his art. He was directly referencing official art and profiting off of it by selling it on his print shops online. He didn't make any effort to make the references detached from the original piece. I confronted him about it, sending a detailed message not to do that and the possible consequences. I've seen artists in real life who are sued for over $100,000 and to the extent in jail for doing what they did. Instead of being professional and mature about it, he lashed out at me and took it to social media, telling me how wrong I was to falsely accuse him, since artists use references, and how I could get sued for libel. I was dumbfounded at how clueless he was, not comprehending what I was talking about. He included my username, which my blog had links to my contacts, my emails, Facebook page, art accounts, and Instagram. His fans, including his group of friends, joined in sending me downright horrific messages. I had panic attacks resulting from the pure backlash of his enormous fan base. I constantly received hate mail, telling me how horrible I am as a person, how shitty my art was, and to the extent of death threats for almost an entire month. The last straw that broke the camel's back was when he directly referenced my art and made money off of it. I didn't know how to find a lawyer, and I feel hopeless and angry that I couldn't do anything about it. Later it hit me, if I can't do it, then maybe another artist can, or anyone holds the copyright. Last time I remember, Zach never credited any of these artists for his references. I looked into the art he referenced and examined each official company matching Zach's art. I used Google search to find anyone working for said company, and voila! I found a staff member for a branch in a different continent. Let's call him Cody. I contacted Cody's Facebook and tipped him about Zach's activity through Messenger. I uploaded and sent a copy of their art and Zach's art for comparison. Cody just simply replied, "We'll contact our legal team. Thanks for the notice." Another week passes by, and during the time, he constantly posts to every damn thing I post about in my art blog. And then, silence. I checked his print shop, was removed. His response to my message was taken down from his social media. He stops talking to his friends publicly. Days later, a fan was asking about him, and he responds how he was no longer friends with them because they are very toxic hypocrites. One of his former groups of friends contacted my friend and cried about how awful a bully he was. Of course, my friend didn't care. It was the most glorifying feeling I have ever rejoiced in. This would have been avoided if he had at least heeded my warnings. How he handled the situation was not professional at all. About 5 years later, I had been informed that apparently he has a tough time getting back into the industry after there were allegations of his past copyright infringement. The biggest one was having a lawsuit with the company Cody worked for. He should have listened to you at the very beginning. What he's doing is not right. What you did is fine. A true artist can draw a piece of art out of his imagination. I am proud of you for not giving up on fighting. What he did is shameful and troublesome. He acted like a kid who was completely out of his mind. I walked out from work and never came back. An old but gold one. My first job was at a terrible office supply store, often associated with staplers. Started under a great GM who got transferred to bail out a failing store. Our new guy was fresh from corporate, with a name like Joe or John. Most generic, overly smiling white guy who spouts corporate slogans. Well, he drove off all the cashiers except a little old me who was a fresh-faced, just-out-of-high-school idiot. He blocked my transfer to be a tech, approved by the old GM, and, as I said, ran off every cashier. Well, it came to a head one day where he scheduled a tech to cover the register for closing. And the tech didn't show because, why would he? He didn't want to sit at a cash register. Naturally, he tells me I have to stay there until someone comes to relieve me. Being young, I just went with it. But had a time I had to be gone to get to class. That time comes, I make a fuss, and a manager comes to relieve me instead. He decides I'm out of line not staying past a 12-hour shift and putting class above work. He lied to me about this and how a customer heard me complaining, how unacceptable, not like he lets me take breaks anyway, so I had nowhere else to complain. It culminates in this big, what was probably supposed to be an inspiring speech about what motivates me, to which I frankly say, money. What else motivates a minimum wage cashier to work there? This makes him quite upset as he babbles that it's not a good enough reason, demands I go home. My shift is well past over and I got class I'm late for, and look deep inside myself. And I better find another reason or else. Or else this job isn't a good fit for me and he wants it to be a good fit, or else because he sees big things in my future, manager things. So naturally I change in the bathroom and go to class, think long and hard, and come back to hand in my 2 weeks as clearly I wasn't a good fit. Then a day later, after a terrible closing shift, I just don't come back. Even told the closing manager, wouldn't it be funny if I just didn't come in to open tomorrow? Which was met with a very serious, stern, don't even joke like that, it's not funny. To which I replied, who said I'm joking, before walking away and never speaking to them again. TLDR, got told money wasn't a good enough reason to work there. Told if I can't find a better reason, I won't be a good fit. Vague reference to firing me. Come back to resign. Then, first day of 2 weeks, got told not to joke about flat out quitting. Walked off without saying anything, never to return. Probably not as funny as I thought. Most of the funny parts were his face. The shock when his inspirational heart-to-heart had me quitting rather than pledging allegiance to the company and the managers, whence it dawned on them that I was just done. By all means, I complied. I couldn't find a reason besides money, so I found another job that night that was a better fit. And I was going to joke about not coming in. But they annoyed me being all serious about not joking like that, so it wasn't a joke anymore. Honestly, I'm proud of you, mate, for working while still at school, being so independent of parents. Not all could do that. You just did the right thing. If you feel uncomfortable with your working environment, management is toxic, then leave. Try to find a job that you are passionate about. Staring contest with my manager while doing nothing for 3 hours. Years ago, I worked at an office supply store. We had an idiot manager after idiot manager cycle through and come up with dumb ideas to try and make the store run better. And this is one of those dumb ideas. The idea was that between certain hours, I think 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., we were only allowed to directly help customers. No restocking shelves, no unloading the truck. I was in charge of changing and checking prices, but I wasn't allowed during those hours. Any of those tasks can easily be done while still being accessible to customers, but apparently that's not good enough. The rest of the staff decided to sneakily do their work when the manager wasn't looking. Otherwise, they couldn't get everything done. Luckily, I was able to finish my work outside of these hours, so I decided to follow this ridiculous rule. At first, I stood up front and turned myself into our Walmart-style greeter, but I hated it and didn't really feel that it was following the rule, as customers typically don't like being asked questions the second they walk in the door. Eventually, I find a spot in the back of the store where I can see the front door, and I post myself there. I do absolutely nothing besides stand there and stare at the front door. When a customer comes in, I track them with my eyes, see what aisle they walk down, and go ask if they need help. When I finish helping them, or more often after they say they don't need anything, I walk back to my spot in the back of the store and continue staring at the front door. Sometimes I stand there for less than a minute, but sometimes I stand there for 15 minutes or more. I do this for 3 hours a day, 4 days of the week that I'm there. For I don't even know how many weeks. One of my favorite memories of this time was a staring contest with my manager. I was in my spot in the back of the store, and he was near the front of the store when he spotted me standing there. Not even remotely pretending to work. He stares at me across the store, and I stare right back, hoping he'll confront me. After all, I'm not allowed to do anything besides help customers, and I know I've approached every customer in the store. Unfortunately, he didn't, and I lost the staring contest after a few minutes when a customer came in and I had to go approach them. When I got back to my spot, he had already moved on. Eventually, I quit. I was given my final warning for my attitude. No customer complaints or problems with incorrect prices. I was just rude to the managers. If you don't know, my final warning means next time I did something wrong, I would be fired. And I realized my managers weren't going to get smarter, and I wasn't going to learn to bite my tongue. So it was best that I move on. Of course, they didn't realize how good at my job I was, and my replacement was terrible, partially because they didn't have me train him before I left. Price tags all over the store were wrong for months. That newly implemented rule in your management is really bad. How could you not work your job description during your working hours? It's just a waste of time to wait for a customer, look at the floor, ceiling, and even steering with your manager. Kidding aside, for 3 hours when there's no customer. You could do more additional work output if he only allowed you to do your job at that same time. This is my first time hearing about that kind of management. It might also help if you and your coworkers open up to him and confront him that this is not good for your work performance. Anyway, since you moved out from that job, it's not your problem anymore. Kinda worried about what those guys left.